Good evening, book lovers. Welcome to another episode of Cath-Lit Live. I am your host, Amy Cattapan. You can find me everywhere on social media under the pen name for my children's books, AJ Cattapan. If you're new to Cath-Lit Live, what we do is we chat with Catholic authors who have new books releasing. And this one, I'm kind of sneaking in just in the nick of time for the right season. Merry Christmas, everyone. It is still the Christmas season. It's December 30th as we are going live right now, and it is still officially the Christmas season. Now, I know some of you won't see this until later on YouTube or on catholicmom.com, but I think actually it's going to get onto catholicmom.com just in the nick of time, just before the baptism of the Lord, which is the official end of the Christmas season. But we've got a Christmas rom-com story for you today. Now, while this is a new genre for this author, it is not this author's first time on Cath-Lit Live. I am happy to be welcoming back Amanda Lauer, my neighbor to the north up in Wisconsin. If you haven't seen any of Amanda's previous interviews here on Cath-Lit Live, let me tell you a bit about her. Amanda Lauer is the author of the award-winning Heaven Intended Civil War series, time travel novels Anything But Groovy and Royal and Ancient. And a first for her, a sweet contemporary Christmas romance called A Very Chapel Falls Christmas. Amanda and her husband, John, have been married 43 years, have 4 married children and 8 grandchildren. So please help me welcome back to the show, Amanda Lauer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Amanda, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you, Amy?
Great. Merry Christmas and welcome back to Cath-Lit Live.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you, and a Happy New Year, and Blessed New Year to you.
Yes. Well, we are getting your new Christmas rom-com in just in the midst of the Christmas season. I was just saying it's still Christmas. We're going live on December 30th. It's still the Christmas season for a while yet. So if people are hoping to hang on to that Christmas spirit a little bit longer, maybe they want to check out your new book, A Very Chapel Falls Christmas. So tell us about this new book.
Yeah, so basically, I write historic fiction. So A Very Chapel Falls Christmas is kind of like a Hallmark movie in a book, or a Great American Family movie in a book. It's a genre movie that I like to read, but it's kind of a book I've never written before. But I was asked by the mayor of a city just south of us called Neenah in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's one of the most Christmassy cities you'll ever find. It's such a cute, has an adorable downtown. It's just, the epitome of Christmas.
I've actually been there. I dated a guy in college who did his internship in Neenah. So I have visited the town. It is very cute.
It is cute, right? And so she and I have been friends for like 10 years, and we got together for coffee a year ago in December. And we both kind of came up with the idea at the same time, kind of like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a Hallmark kind of Christmas rom-com set in Neenah? And she looked at me, her name is Mayor Jane Lang. So Jane looked at me and said, "You should write that book." And I'm like, well, I've never really written anything like that, but maybe I could. So we were in Neenah together. I came down to Neenah to shoot photos of this beautiful chapel in one of their cemeteries in Neenah that had been refurbished by a very generous family in Neenah. And she thought it'd be the perfect cover for one of my books. Well, she thought it'd be the perfect cover for one of my Civil War books because the chapel's from the 1800s. Who would have ever guessed it would be the perfect cover for a, rom-com set in modern times? And, so it's the craziest story. But after we took pictures, I took a bunch of pictures of the chapel. We went and had coffee in downtown Neenah, right next to a little skating rink, kind of like Rockefeller Center, so Rockefeller Plaza, whatever. So cute. And she was just telling me all these really fun things they do in Neenah at Christmas time. And I'm just like, you are literally writing a rom-com right there. And we just put our heads together, and she just, told me some stories of things that go on in Neenah. And I'm like, that's right there is the outline I need. And so what I did is, after the first of the year, I went to Ohio for 3 weeks to help take care of our newborn grandson. And while I was there, I had about 3 hours every day from 9 until midnight where I could write when the house was quiet, when his 2-year-old sister was asleep, when he was asleep. And that's basically how I got that entire book written.
Wow.
And what really helped a lot is there's like their Chamber of Commerce in Neenah is called Future Neenah. And they have a website that explains everything in great detail that goes on at Christmas time there and in the winter too. Some of the events are, post Christmas, like in January and February, but they were included in the book as well. But in order so that people wouldn't pigeonhole the book and just think, oh, this is about a particular city in Wisconsin, we renamed Neenah to Chapel Falls. And as a matter of fact, I was not the one who came up with the name. It was my agent, Joe DeRufos from Chicago, who you probably know.
Yep, know him.
Yeah, so Joe is the one who actually came up with the new name. At first, we called it Winnebago Falls because Winnebago Rapids was the original name of Neenah. And I thought, well, I'll change it a little, Winnebago Falls. And he's like, all he could think of was an RV. he said, there's a chapel on the front cover. Why don't we call it Chapel Falls? It was just absolutely perfect. There was no question he had found the perfect title. And it was actually an interesting experience for me to write comedy because I do it, even though I write a lot of historic fiction about real historic characters in life, there's still comedy written throughout my stories. Because even though some of the topics are heavy, like the Civil War, people still find some things to laugh. You either laugh or you cry, right? And there's always the friction between my protagonists, the male and the female protagonist. And of course, in this kind of book, it's more like the slapstick comedy where they're always literally running into each other.
And so why don't we back up a smidge? Tell us basically what's the premise here? Like, who are you? You mentioned there's a protagonist, and it's a rom-com, so there's got to be a couple. So, like, what's like the basic premise of the book?
Sure. So we have Nik and Noelle, and after college, they had taken their first jobs in Neenah or Chapel Falls. I got to make sure I get the right name. And Nik was actually from that area, and Noelle was from Alaska, and she had moved to the area to go to school and took her first job there. Like I said, they had actually dated after college and were engaged, but Nik was trying to make a career in the music industry. So he determined that he needed to go to Nashville to make it big. And Noelle, having been raised in Alaska, didn't want to move to the big city. She liked living in the small town. And so they were going to try long distance dating, and it didn't work. So 10 years later, 10 years go by, and in the meantime, they've moved on with their lives. She actually moved back to Alaska for a while, and he was living in Tennessee, and he actually did make it really big in the music industry. And he was engaged to a young lady who was also in the industry. And something happened at one of the biggest music awards ceremony on the planet. And it was so devastating to him that he went back home to Chapel Falls to kind of recoup from that and get out of the spotlight because he has millions of followers on his social media sites. And by chance, Noelle came back into town too around the same time for a job opportunity to look for a different job. So they ran into each other, literally kept running into each other. And according to social media, he thought she was with somebody. She knew he had been engaged. She didn't know they had broken up. She hadn't been following social media. She kind of dropped off of it after they broke up. So everybody else seems to know everything but her. And she ends up taking a job as communications director for the city of Chapel Falls. And so Nik, being the big music celebrity, he's like the guest celebrity at every single Christmas event. And she has to be at every single Christmas event for her job. And so it's one thing after another, and it's just a series of funny mishaps. And, they begin to realize they like each other again, but, someone comes back into the picture, makes things complicated. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be moved. Kind of like the VeggieTales, what they say in VeggieTales. But yeah, it's really funny. And I've read the book myself so many times that you can't imagine as, you go over the edits and such.
Yeah.
I laugh at the same scenes every single time. They make me crack up. And so many people have read this book. I've gotten more feedback on this book than any book I've ever written. I think part of it is because so many copies went out. The city of Neenah has just been wonderful. They partnered up with me. And at all their fun Christmas things in December, I've been a guest there signing books.
Oh, fun.
So many people have bought books for their kids who moved away or they grew up in Neenah and they recognize all of the businesses and such. And what we did that made it really relevant to the community is that all the businesses in the book are actually real businesses in the city of Neenah. We didn't change any of the names. And even like the owners, we didn't change the owners' first names. We didn't use last names. And so there's 20 businesses that are actually represented in the book. And it's not like product placement. It's actually where scenes happen, where they go out to eat, where they go shopping.
Did they know that you were going to use the names of their stores and their first names? Did you talk to them about that first?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I called all 20 of the businesses and got their permission before I just did this. And what was really, really cool is, so I told you that Joe Drupos from Chicago is my agent. And we had an interesting contract. It was only like 8-week long contract because originally my husband and I thought we were going to publish this ourselves on October 1st. Joe read the manuscript and loved it. Apparently he is the biggest fan of like Hallmark Christmas movies. He even does like spreadsheets on them and he's way into it.
That is something I did not know about Joe. I've known Joe for a few years. That's good information to know. Thank you for passing that along.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. He watches them more than his wife does. She says, just give me the top 2 of the week. You watch all the rest and just give me, the download. Yeah. So he's so into it. But he said when I was reading this book, it was just like reading a scriptural Hallmark movie. And he also said, this is like a love letter to the city of Neenah. He said, I want to come up and visit. I've never been there. I want to bring my wife up there. It sounds so cute. It's just as adorable as it sounds in the book. But yeah, so Joe was shopping this around to literally the biggest publishing companies on the planet. And for one reason or another, it didn't work. So many of them held on to this script and for whatever reason didn't work. And by chance, he was the first agent that Matthew Kelly had when he first started publishing books. So he knew Matthew Kelly well. And they were just chatting about something. I don't think my book was even the topic of why they were talking, but the topic did come up. And it turned out that Matthew had intended to start or was going to be starting a new arm under their Vidant Publishing, so new imprint with women's fiction. And so he asked if he wanted to give me a contract to have this book, and he said that they could have it out by December 1st of this year.
Wow.
So it was just like, it was more than I could have even dreamed or wished for. It was like so crazy when you think about it. And so it was like all hands on deck at the publishing firm where everybody did everything to get this book out in record-breaking time. I think it was about maybe 6 weeks they had to get the whole,
and usually it's like a year.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. And the book had been professionally copy edited. We had started, the cover was professionally made but needed some tweaking. So we had a really good start, but there was a lot of work to do in that short time frame. But they got it all together. And my husband John and I drove to Northern Kentucky in November, on November 21st, to meet with Matthew and his staff, to meet my editor Ava in person, to meet Maggie, the gal who did a lot of the artwork and stuff. It was really neat to actually tour Dynamic Catholic, the whole institute, and to see the publishing end, to see the Dynamic Catholic end. And they actually had a case of books for me when I got there. So that was like,
that's awesome.
Like 9 days even earlier or something than we had anticipated. So that was amazing. And then what he did too is he sent out like their Christmas catalog or what have you, or Christmas suggestions. Well, my book was at the top of the list of the Christmas suggestions to 1 million of their followers 3 times in December. I don't know what the sales were from that because I don't have access to those numbers. I'll find out in January. Right. So I'm sure a few books sold through that.
But what is your hope for this book then? I mean, obviously, it's for entertainment, but like, what are you hoping happens now? Because, it's a book that people could come back to Christmas after Christmas, right? Or what are you hoping for?
Well, the biggest hope of all is that this will be a movie someday. Mm-hmm. I know that all these channels offer Christmas movies every Christmas. And this book is so different from the stuff you see all the time. You can predict every single thing, right? Of course, we're going to have a nice ending because that's how these movies end. And I love books with happy endings, right? That's how it should be. But really, a movie. And so we're hoping that the right people are seeing this book And we feel like it's being looked at by the right people. We hope it's going in that direction. And so we'll see what happens. But to get this movie project greenlit in 2025 really is my biggest goal. And they actually called this year as a soft launch because they had so little time.
Yeah.
So Matthew gave 40 books to each of those 20 businesses to sell. They could keep the profits or they could give all the profits away to nonprofit organizations. So this book has, I mean, helped everything from the Fox Valley Humane Society to VITA, which is a Catholic free medical clinic in our area, to Harbor House, which is a home for abused women. Lots of animals have. There's the Nina Animal Shelter and such. Boys and Girls Club, Toys for Tots, all sorts of organizations got like about $800 or $1,600 each for the sales of the books from these businesses. So it's been such a beautiful project. Like I said, if this can be a movie someday, it would just be a dream come true.
Yeah.
And if it's, it's really up to God, whatever God decides he wants to do with this project, we'll take anything. I mean, it's been a beautiful project thus far. And if this was the end and I just had a Christmas book out and now I can go back to my normal, Civil War books,
Yeah.
So be it.
I feel like I have to ask, since we're on Cath-Lit Live, and I know you're a Catholic author, and I know there are faith elements in your other books. Is there a faith element here in the story with Nik and Noelle?
Yeah, for sure. Nik is evangelical and Noelle is Catholic. And so they talk about things like going to church and stuff. And there's one incident in the book, of a funny incident where she has a rosary out and he's kind of teasing her about it because he thinks she's kind of overdoing this thing. You'll read about it when you get the book. But it's like all my books, their faith is just interwoven into the people they are. And the interesting thing is the tagline for Matthew Kelly is like, you want to be a better version of yourself every day. I used that tagline in that book before I had any idea he was going to be involved in this project. So it's really such a blessing when you think about it, because that's really a tagline I use in my life. I'm always trying to be a better version of myself every day. And that's what they're trying to do, regardless of their religious background. They're trying to, be better people every day. Should we
The
all
Holy
be, right?
Spirit. The Holy Spirit must have known where this book was headed when you were in the process. Right?
I know, it's so crazy, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, where can people find out more about you and your books? Because you do have so many. Seems like I have you on about once a year because there seems to be at least one book coming out every year. So where can people find out more about you and your books?
Yeah, so this is my 10th book that I've published, but I have two more that are finished that I'm praying will be published in 2025. They can go to amandalauer.com. Amanda, Amanda, Lauer, Lauer.com. And all the books are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I believe if you go to Dynamic Catholic, you'll be able to find at least this book is under there. I'm not exactly sure the page you have to go to, but you'll find it if you're looking.
Yeah. So yeah, some people don't realize how much fiction he's actually started to publish. I mean, he's got his own. We met my last guest, Chris Stepien. He's got 2 novels now published through them. They bought actually all of Servant Books, so they have, like, our friend Lisa Hendy, her Time Traveler series is now under Matthew Kelly's imprint. So there's actually a good amount of fiction for both adults and kids now coming through Dynamic Catholic. So people can go there too.
Yeah, he's got 100 million books out, so he's doing okay with 200 authors, Yeah. Doing all right.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest again, Amanda.
Sure, Amy. You have a beautiful day and a happy new year to you.
Yes, happy new year. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, so good to have Amanda on again. She's a very prolific writer. I can only hope my retirement looks like that one day as well. So if you're looking to keep the Christmas spirit going a little bit longer, check out A Very Chapel Falls Christmas by Amanda Lauer. And make sure if you're watching this on YouTube to like and subscribe. And until next time, I'm going to wish you happy reading.